Hello everyone. Thank you all for your involvement during this event. It went pretty well. I will provide you with a very quick feedback as a data scientist for the organizer teams, the Free Spirit. So I think it went very well and on different sides. So the participants were very motivated. They show a lot of emulation. They ask a lot of questions. They solicitate the mentors. Thank you to the mentors, because particularly the IT ones with which I've worked more. They were we had there a very large diversity of profile. Thank you to the specialists, the wildlife specialists, which learned us a lot of things during this weekend. Thank you to our partners for their presentations and for their advices on the different subjects. And finally, thank you to you, Sarah, on the ethic for AI part, because it was a very important, a critical part of our event to be sure that we are ethical in the way we produce solutions regarding this major topic around wildlife. So let's go to the presentation now, which is called IT to Consider the Biosphere. So why did I choose consider? Because consider, it means two things. It means first, you pay attention when you consider someone or something, or could be an animal, could be a species, could be different scales of things that you want to consider. But when you consider it, usually you dedicate time to it to understand it. The second meaning, which is linked, but goes a little more into detail, is the fact that is to evaluate. So considering is evaluate things. We are this way. When we see new things or things, we evaluate in continue, I would say, qualitatively and quantitatively the things that we meet in our daily life basis. So to evaluate, and everything starts with the measure. In fact, when we consider something, we measure it in a way. It's interesting because we have some senses. So we have 5 senses. We know it. Like we can touch, we can hear, we can view, we can taste, we can smell. And from this we produce that kind of data, and with this data we do some prediction that allow us to make some decision in different situations. One thing that is interesting with it is that the IT help us to gather even more information, to make sensitive even more information in the nature and also in the wildlife. Why is that? Because we put some sensors that are the capacity to measure things that we cannot even measure ourselves with our senses. So it overpasses our senses. And it has the capacity to centralize those information as well, and to understand even better our environment, to produce data, and with data to make some prediction, to make some better decision at different scales. Then consideration is also linked to the limits. As one human, we have a limit of factor we could consider simultaneously. And even if we are a group of people already, we can consider more things, we can get more information into a decision. But if we are connected through this new IT system, but still developing an increasing capacity of gather the data of a lot of different sensors, different ways to learn from this data is becoming even more interesting. So the capacity to consider things is increasing with the IT as well. But we still have to ask the question why we do that. And why we do that, I think that if we pay attention to something, it's finally the objective to take care of it. We have to we want to understand it because it signifies something for us. So if it signifies something, if it's important, it's that we understand it in a way that we could care more care of it. We take more care of it. Let's go to the next slide. So on this one, enrich and structure the understanding of life. We could say that the data in this topic is the way of recording manifestation of the living. We are talking about the nature itself, the wildlife, for example, this giraffe on this tree. Nice image, by the way. I see that I like it, so I want it to be existing still like in this picture, but it could be in a lot of different patterns, a lot of different shapes, but it provides me a nice sentiment when I see it, and I think it's quite spontaneous. From a child to a grandparent, it's important to preserve those things. So it's quite it overpass us, I would say. So the data records the manifestation of the living. And why is that? What are the goals that we could answer with it? We could make some prediction to preserve this. We can make some analysis of correlation. And one thing that is important, I think, today is the capacity of measuring the interaction. So why is that? Why I do think that we are in the age of interaction understanding. Some could tell it big data, but for me it's big data linked to very important topic, to major topic like this one, like wildlife preservation. Why interaction? Because interaction is the capacity to take into account in our modeling activities as data scientists, for example, but not only data scientists, but the capacity to take into account the interaction phenomenon. So what's happening together and how it's influencing together one with the other. And we can consider it, I'm showing it with it's two phenomena, but in fact it's a lot of phenomena. It's a lot of factors that inter-influence each other. So it's a very complicated model. But the good thing is that today we have more and more the machine and the IT competencies and capacities to address this kind of problematics of measuring interaction. And interaction, in a way, it's also a way of talking about our hackathon today. We are studying this weekend the interaction between IT and wildlife. What can we do with IT in wildlife preservation? What are the solutions we can find in this interaction? But maybe tomorrow the question will be the interaction between the species, the wildlife, the human, the energy, so different stakes that we could take into account at the same time to propose some solutions that are intercorrelated together. So how to learn efficiency to address the stakes? We have two goals, or I would say two assessment, or maybe two, could be problematics as well. We want to learn from a diversity of situations. So if we want to consider a lot of phenomena at the same time, we have to learn from a diversity of situations. For example, in the animals, wildlife, if we want to understand how to preserve it, we have to understand, to observe a lot of different things, to produce a lot of different data and experiences. But at the same time, we have to learn from the repetition of experiences, because we know that if we want that to take an output from a modeling experience to make a data and an output relevant, significative, we have to repeat this experience few times. So it's even more difficult when we know this to come back to the first point. Like, we have to learn from a diversity of situation, but on each diversity of situation, we have to do it repetitively in order to make it relevant in terms of analysis. So a lot to do at the same time. isn't it? Yes, I think so. And the idea to do it, one of the idea when I was putting together this presentation, that we have also capacity to, why not, distribute the learning capacities. Like we are a lot of humans on the earth today, we are a lot connected, we have a lot of capacity to do some experiences, so why not to try to distribute those? And it's coming more and more, we can feel it, I think. And that's linked to the empowerment, because that's linked to a kind of responsibility, a social responsibility. So the data from all these experiences could be centralized and could be anonymized as well, but could be considered as a common if we want to go more into an open source way of considering this type of human being property or planet property, or how to say, but no limit property, like it's a common that we can put together, all together, in order to help the next generations to consider their problematics with these experiences, repetition and diversity of experiences. I will provide you with a very quick example. I have a lilac in my garden, which is in a pot. And it's growing for years already, and from a certain point of time, it's very nice, etc. From a certain point of time, I've detected that it's going a little, it's quite bad, it's going down, and the leaves are disappearing somewhere, and in some parts, so I was wondering what's happening, and when I look at it more carefully, I've seen that some bugs were eating the leaves of my lilas. So year after year, instead of growing, it was going down. But I like this lila. So I tried to find solution to eradicate. So bad for the bugs, but good for my lilac. So my lilac. Eradicate the punaise, but I didn't want to do it in a bad way, like pulverizing things toxic and stuff. It's not good for the child as well. So I was searching for some solution, even on the net and etc. And I was not able to find solution. And one day I talked with my grandma by this, and she said, "Have you tried to put a lavanda aside your lila?" And I said, "No, why are you saying this? I never heard that or read that somewhere." And she said, "Yeah, you should try." I said, "Okay, thank you, I will try. Thank you, grandma," etc. Okay, the first year I've tried this, the bugs were not coming back. Second year, same things. So finally it was a solution. Where did come from this solution? This come from the experiences that was done in the past generations. They repeated a lot of tries, in fact. Each culture, that's what we can call culture, in fact. Each culture in their own environment, etc., has tried different things through times, through centuries, and tell the next generation, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't, etc., with some mistakes. Most probably with some mistakes, and we know there were some mistakes. But today, maybe we have my point is that I was very happy that my lilac was better, and now it's very high and very nice with some flowers, etc., etc. I was thinking just that in the way we are putting things together, like in the agricultural industry, for example, do we keep this capacity to continue to learn the cross between this plant and this plant and this plant? And is there no way to distribute the capacity to learn regarding the plants, but it could be regarding the environment in general, it could be regarding all the stakes that we are facing today, finally. It was just a quick story. Let's go to the next slide, which is the last, in fact. That's another question that I wanted to address there. So the two first points, that consider the biosphere, or consider the species, consider the stakes. The second point is that the capacity to consider more and more interactions into our modelings, to understand things that are connected together, and the way they are connected together, they are moving together through times. And the last point is that as we cannot prioritize everything at the same time, how to prioritize what is the most important, in fact. And on this question, there is no easy answer, but one track could be to find an equilibrium between expertise and citizen representativity. And it could be also linked to the education, for example, because if we want to prioritize something, if we want to prioritize, for example, wildlife instead of energy problematics, and I think it's not the good way to approach this, should we do it? And there is something that is called the utility functions, that's coming from the economics field, that allow us to summarize into into equations, in fact, the priority. Could be the priority of a human being, for example. This is what is more important for me. The needs could be crossed with the pyramid of Maslow as well. The needs, the wishes, all the things that are important for one human being, for example. So you can estimate it at an individual level, but you can estimate it at a group level, and you can estimate it at a society level, and maybe at a planet level as well, to prioritize. But I will come back to one thing. Interaction help us to consider the end and not the or. We are more and more able to consider a lot of things at the same time. So we shouldn't really look at the or, but we should go more and more and look at the end. I want to consider the wildlife and the education part, so I can make some awareness, for example, on the wildlife regarding the education program, for example. But I will also recommend some. We can also recommend some education regarding the energy. We have to transmit, in fact, all the experience that we have already done, and we could build in parallel a lot of new experiences that we could distribute in grace of IT as well. So finally, the ethic in AI that help us a lot to prioritize as well, but also to anticipate the impact, which helps also to prioritize and to understand the bias, because we know that bias is everywhere. It's also in nature. It's also in us. It's in the model, in the modeling activities. And with this type of approach of interactions, the more we are connecting things into our learning, the more we control the bias as well, the less the bias appears in the models. Because the bias generally, it's in the residual part of the model. But the more we have some detail concerning the residual part of the model, the less the model contains some bias of analysis. Thank you very much for your attention. It is a very great event. Good luck for the following step. And I do hope that we will be able to organize an event considering wildlife, but considering as well other topics in order to see how we can compose with the main stakes of our times. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.